After the Second World War, the United States and the Soviet Union were in a race, one that was particularly frightening for many decades to come. One part of this race was to see who could build the biggest bomb. But that was not the only front in which they were racing. Space, industry, economy, and specifically tank development was on the cards. And this is where the Leopard, West Germany's new state-of-the-art tank at the time, came into existence. It was fast, deadly, and was considered the go-to tank for many European nations. Let's jump into its history and find out more. The Leopard project started in November 1956 in order to develop a modern tank to replace the Bundeswehr's American-built M47 and M48 Patton tanks, which were rapidly becoming outdated. On the 25th of July 1957, the detailed specifications were released. The new design needed to weigh no more than 30 tons, have a power-to-weight ratio of 30 horsepower per ton, be able to withstand hits by 20mm rapid-fire guns on every side, as well as to operate in a battlefield contaminated with chemical weapons and radioactive fallout. The main armament had to consist of a 105mm caliber weapon, which the new British L7A3 105mm gun was selected for. The vehicle had to at least carry as many rounds as the current US tank designs. Mobility had priority, while firepower came second. Armor was seen as less essential, as it was to be believed that no real protection against hollow-charged weapons was possible anyway. At the time, it was suspected that future conflicts would involve nuclear weapons, which no tank at the time could directly protect from it. France was very interested in the design, as its own AMX-50 project had just failed. In June 1957, West Germany and the French Fourth Republic signed an agreement to develop a common tank, designated in German Europa Panzer. 3 Germans Arbeitsgruppe A, B and C and 1 French design team were included in a competition, with each team producing 2 prototypes. In September 1958, Italy joined the development program as well. Several prototypes were entered for testing in 1960. Among the prototypes were Porsche's Model 734 from Team A, sporting a cast turret. Team B from Rheinmetall had a cast turret that was somewhat higher. Team C from Borgward designed a futuristic tank, but failed to have a prototype ready in time. The Porsche Prototype 2 was eventually selected as the winner of the contest in 1963. This did not come as a surprise, as it already had been decided in 1961 to build a pre-series of 50 vehicles based on the design. Interesting assumption once again. Production of these was started that very year. This 0 series was modified with a new cast turret and several hull changes to raise the rear deck to provide more room in the engine compartment and move some of the radiators to the upper sides of the hull. Before mass production of the standard version started, it was decided to add an optical range-finding system for better long-range gunnery, which required the turret to be somewhat taller and added bumps on either side of the turret to mount the optics for triangulation. Production was set up at Krauss-Maffei in Munich from early 1964 onward, with deliveries of the first batch between September 1965 and July 1966. The Leopard was soon being purchased from Germany by a number of NATO members and other allies, including Belgium, the Netherlands, Norway, Italy, Denmark, Australia, Canada, and even Turkey. There were other countries, but they couldn't get the tanks due to political reasons at the time. So now that we have covered its history, let's look at the tank in-game and find out how accurately it's being portrayed. Another interesting part to the Leopard's journey was the vast amounts of variants built from its hull. Germany was really looking to create a tank that could be multi-purpose. A good example was the Leopard that was also built off this hull, and also various other tanks based off the Marder IFV series, which I've mentioned in a previous video. It will be good to check it out. Driving the Leopard is a real walk in the park compared to the sluggish Second World War tanks. It's really great in speed and its turret traverse is also not bad. But now that we have really moved into the Cold War style of gameplay in War Thunder, the tank strategies really take a bit of a turn. And this is where you need to be careful. Right, so now I'm in the tank. there are a few pointers to note before I take it for a spin. At stock, your speed is okay. You have a good reverse speed, and like mentioned before, your turret turns pretty quick. But there are other concerns about the tank, which we'll cover in a second. Remember when I mentioned the specification around armor being just able to stop a 20mm gun? Well, that's about right. One good shot on your front, and it's time to move on. You see, the problem with keeping all that ammunition is that one of the storage locations is literally right at the front next to the driver. So any semi-experienced player is going to know how to zap you, and you really have no way out of it. Or do you? Well, you do. It's called playing held down. But we will dive further into this type of playstyle as we move through this video. What is important to know is that the tank is rated at a 7.3 battle rating. I feel this is kind of still in the safe space where no thermals or laser rangefinders are present. Getting up tiered is a tough one, as the many Soviet tanks start to flirt with the APFSDS rounds and wheeled tank destroyers start to stalk the planes. So let's dive more into its insides and investigate what it holds that will give it some advantage. So looking at the armor of this tank, it's pretty accurate to its historical real-life counterpart. It's really just good enough to stop 20mm shells. Looking at the hull, it has a maximum of 70mm frontal armor with 35mm side protection. Pretty much any higher caliber size round will drop you in an instant. The turret armor is at a maximum 200mm on the front mantlet and between 45 to 52mm of armor on the sides and rear. Comparatively to the Soviet tanks, this is literally made out of tin foil. So the only way you're going to safely play this tank is to really sit back and hide and remain undetected for as long as humanly possible. And then looking at the fair comparison to the historical real life build, it's pretty spot on. But that is the only major drawback in my opinion. For what's to come next is what makes it super lethal and deadly. Oh yes, its engine. This baby sports a MTU MB838 CAM 500 engine, which produces a total of 830 brake horsepower. This is a lot considering we were covering a tank before with a 700 brake horsepower engine and a weight of almost 60 tons. The Leopard is only 40 tons, which means its power to weight ratio is 20 horsepower per ton fully upgraded. This is pretty damn quick and exactly to spec as how it was made historically. Now being in the tank, you get to feel a little bit more on how it rolls. It is very similar to the XM1 and the T55 AM1 in terms of speed. Expect a speed of 40 to 50 kilometers an hour off-road. The neutral steering is amazing. You're able to swivel your tank easily and can be used to boost turret rotation speeds. The suspension is also great, very soft with great dampening effects, and gives the tank that smooth drive. Back to the armor. Frontally, the angle of the hull can bounce shots once in a while, but you're really off not to rely on this. The turret front is also the same. It's best to attempt to only fire when you can avoid receiving a shot or relocating to a position if possible. The tank has the agility to do this. And also, peeking over heels and dropping a quick shot with intention of backing off is how you should play. If you have the possibility to hit a Russian tank's hull, which is again faced towards you, prioritize it, because it's likely to take it out with one shot at the right side of the hull. American tanks like the M103, M47 or M60 are harder to take out. It is advised to take out the gunner first, which is located on the left side of the turret, and then take out the rest of the remaining crew members. See if I can get in here. Got him. Got him. Just take the shot back out. That's what you need to do. Doesn't have... There we go. First strike. It doesn't have any, what you would say, armor. That's it. Shoot from the hip, boys. Shoot from the hip. Just need to be a little patient here. Not too aggressive. Got him. So the part of this tank I do enjoy is the British-made L7A3 105mm gun. There is a drawback though with this gun, as it does not come with a stabilizer and only the standard rangefinder. But the accurate fire at long ranges can punch through even heavily armored vehicles. The L7A3 is a highly capable weapon for the Leopard 1 and performs well in all ranges, especially the fact it has a good depression angle.
Oh! Damn, what a shot! And then you have one of these that will... Right. That's how you end off that one. That's another one.
As far as ammo is concerned, this is a difficult pill to swallow, as you start off with the DM13 APDS round, which has no explosive filler. So you will need to place your shots pretty accurately. This can be frustrating at first, but once you unlock that oh so necessary Heat FS round at tier 4, taking out targets becomes a bit easier, and the penetration of these rounds are also pretty solid at all degrees, but there are some post-penetration issues.
Regarding the turret itself, it's pretty fast traversing and makes it easy for you to turn onto targets. The gun depression is also nice at a -9 degrees, so it makes it really easy for you to look over the hills and take the shot and reverse back. With its comfy ride, it does feel more natural and way less clunky than those of the older Second World War tanks, but I must warn you, the tank is not really equipped for a new player. Having some experience will be highly advised.
So with all that covered, let's dive into the pros and cons and do a quick recap, starting with the pros. It's fast and very agile when fully upgraded, high penetration APDS and Heat FS rounds, reasonably fast reload time can be reduced to 6.7 seconds, good gun elevation and depression, reasonably good turret traverse rate, a relatively small and moderately low profile, and it has an excellent reverse speed. Now for the cons. Essentially non-existent armor that can't stop any more than 20mm rounds reliably, no main gun stabilizer, takes a while for the gun to steady after moving for accurate shots, tankers unaccustomed to APDS may struggle with the stock vehicle. Like all MBTs, there is ammunition stored adjacent to the driver, a 4-man crew complement reasonably close packed, easy prey for high caliber autocannons such as those found on the ZSU 57-2, Heat FS and APDS rounds have subpar post-penetration effectiveness, often taking multiple rounds to destroy vehicles. So my final take on the tank is that it's definitely something I would buy, as I have a fair amount of experience playing tanks. This tank can really be a lot of fun if you know how to play it and not just drive on the first go. Historically, from what I've researched, the tank is fairly accurate to its historical versions back in the 60s. The price in game is a fair 370,000 Silver Lions and 130,000 research points. All the optional extras will set you back around 180,000 Silver Lions and 109,000 research points. Overall, it's definitely a decent buy. It's also fairly iconic and it's really fun to play. Catch us in the next episode where I drive a tank known to many as the Fury tank. And once again on that ferocious bombshell, we will see you next time. Good night.